It started with a ping. Not a text, not a notification, an actual sound. That subtle snap of elastic against tile. I was brushing my teeth in the morning when I heard it from the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I was sitting on the couch in a damp towel, scrolling my phone, when my wife walked in holding something between two fingers like it was a piece of evidence in a crime drama. A small, pink hair tie. "Whose is this?" she asked, sharp and flat like she already knew the answer. I blinked. "What?" She tossed it on the coffee table. It landed with a thud way heavier than its actual weight. This was in the kitchen. On the floor. Right by the bar stools. "I don't know," I said, instantly feeling like the dumbest husband alive. It wasn't hers. That much was clear. My wife has thick, dark curls and only uses the fabric-wrapped kind, black or navy. This one was thin, cheap-looking, neon pink, and definitely not from this house. But here's the thing, I'm not cheating. I've never even come close. We've been together 10 years, and I couldn't stomach the idea of hurting her. Still, in that moment, I looked guilty as hell because I had nothing, no explanation, no excuse, just a lot of blinking and a slow-building sense of dread. We argued. Not loudly, but in that low, tense way that's worse than yelling. She asked if someone had been here over the weekend. I said no. She asked if I'd had anyone over. I said no. Then she asked the same question, again and again, in different words like maybe I'd confess if she just rephrased it right. I even walked her through my weekend, watching playoff games, reheating frozen lasagna, and playing hours of Elden Ring. I didn't leave the house except to get mail. Hell, I barely changed out of my hoodie. Eventually, she left the room, quiet but upset. I figured we'd cool down, talk it out later. But the next day, while I was at work, she texted, "I can't stop thinking about it. Something isn't adding up." And that's when the spiral began. When I got home that night, things were off. Not yelling, not cold shoulder. Just quiet suspicion. The kind that hums through a house like static. I decided to get ahead of it. I checked our Nest camera footage from the weekend. Nothing. Just me, the cat, and a lot of couch sitting. I even rewound to the night before she came back. No guests, no shadows, no unexplained movements. Then I remembered the cats. Indoor cats. Could have dragged it in from. What? Someone's shoe? A delivery bag? But I hadn't had any deliveries. And if it was tracked in, why was it clean? She asked if it could be from one of my coworkers. Maybe stuck to a coat or backpack. But I work at a tech company, mostly guys. The only women are in marketing and HR and I'm not trying to stereotype, but I don't think any of them are rocking neon pink hair ties. It wasn't adding up. Not to her. And to be honest, not to me, either. Here's where things got weirder. That night, she went to bed early. I stayed up watching Netflix. Around midnight, I went to grab a drink, and as I passed by the kitchen window, I swear on my life, I saw a flash of pink. A streak. Low to the ground. Like someone crouching? I flipped on the backyard light. Nothing. The motion sensor hadn't triggered either. We live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Nothing ever happens here. No reason to panic. But I checked the locks anyway, all of them. Went to bed feeling unsettled. Next morning, she was still cold. I tried joking, even brought her coffee in bed. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She said, "I just want to know why your story feels rehearsed." I froze. Rehearsed? My story? I lived it. Alone. With cats and a controller. What was I supposed to say? But I didn't push. Instead, I did what I should have done from the start. I looked deeper. And that's when I found it. Or rather, them. In the laundry room, tucked behind the dryer, were 2 more hair ties. Same color. Same style. Not hers. Not mine. Not explained. And that's when I started to doubt everything I thought I knew. I stared at the 2 new hair ties like they were landmines. Same neon pink. Same size. One slightly stretched, the other with a strand of light brown hair tangled in it. That's when the unease turned into something else, panic. I didn't put them there. I swear on everything, I did not. But they weren't hers, and they sure as hell didn't belong in my house. One hair tie could have been explained, stuck to a shoe, clung to a bag, fell out of a neighbor's pocket. But 3? I didn't even tell her I found them. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I took pictures and stashed them in the garage under my workbench in a drawer full of junk cables and mismatched screws. I needed time to think, to figure out what the hell was happening. Telling her now, after swearing up and down there was only one hair tie, would have made me look worse than I already did. But that silence came at a cost. That night, she sat on the other end of the couch, knees pulled to her chest, barely looking at me. She'd say she was tired, but I could tell her mind was racing. Mine was too, but for a different reason. I started replaying every hour of that weekend. Every trip to the kitchen, every cat nap on the couch, every second I thought I was alone. I barely slept. At 3:22 a.m., I heard something. Not the usual creaks or HVAC groans. A deliberate click, like a door latch. I jumped out of bed and checked the front and back doors. Locked. No sign of a break-in. I told myself it was the cats, or the house settling. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The next day, I left work early. I needed to clear my head, maybe retrace steps. I started with the security cam again. Nothing out of the ordinary, until I checked the garage cam. It was dead. The feed had stopped Saturday night around 10:47 p.m., right around the time I'd been passed out on the couch. Motion sensor showed nothing since then. I checked the camera. It had been unplugged. Here's the thing. I haven't touched that camera in months. It's hardwired behind a shelf. You'd need to move a box of windshield washer fluid and a stack of old Christmas lights to even see the outlet. That's when I noticed something else. The side door to the garage, the one that leads to the backyard, wasn't shut all the way. It looked closed, but when I pushed it, it swung open easily. No click. No resistance. Just open. It's always locked. I checked for signs of forced entry. Nothing. Just a faint scuff mark near the doorframe. Like someone nudged it with a foot. I stood in the garage, suddenly freezing, and felt that same feeling from the night before, like something had brushed against my thoughts, cold and wrong. I went back inside and checked the drawers, closets, crawl space. Nothing. But my wife caught me in the hallway with a flashlight and a confused look on my face. What are you doing? I didn't want to lie, but I couldn't tell her about the extra hair ties. Not yet. So I said, I thought I heard something weird last night. Just being paranoid, I guess. She narrowed her eyes. Weird like what? Like, maybe someone was in the backyard. The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Her entire posture changed, shoulders tensed, jaw clenched. You think someone's been creeping around the house, and you didn't tell me? I tried to backpedal. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to freak you out over nothing. But it was too late. I'd planted another seed of mistrust. You're acting so strange lately. First the hair tie, now secret midnight patrols? What else are you hiding? I opened my mouth, ready to spill it all, but something stopped me. A sharp, primal voice in my head that whispered, don't. Not yet. Nothing, I said. I just want to make sure we're safe. She didn't believe me. I could see it. And that hurt more than I expected. The final straw, at least for that day, came when I went to check our Ring doorbell footage. Something I hadn't reviewed yet. I loaded the app and scrolled back. There it was. Saturday, 11:12 p.m. Motion detected. I hit play. A blur. Just a flicker of movement. A shape, small, fast, and low to the ground, darting across the front porch and vanishing out of frame. Too small for a person. Too big for a cat. I froze the frame. There, in the bottom right corner, partially illuminated by the porch light, was something unmistakably pink. A hair tie. I didn't sleep that night either. Not because I was afraid I'd get caught. Because I was starting to wonder if I was being set up. But by who? And why? I had no idea. By now, I felt like a side character in my own life, watching things unravel around me, powerless to explain any of it. The pink hair ties were no longer just a misunderstanding. They were intentional. Someone had been in or around our home, more than once, and each time left behind a pink breadcrumb. I didn't tell my wife everything that night. I told myself I was protecting her from paranoia. Truth was, I didn't want her to see the doubt in my own face. Because if I couldn't even convince myself I wasn't crazy, how could I convince her? But I did take one step. I called my buddy Craig. Craig's the kind of guy who builds custom PCs for fun and owns 3 drones just in case. I told him, vaguely, that I thought someone was messing with our property and asked if he could come over and help me check for anything weird, bugs, hidden cams, signs of tampering. He was there within the hour. We swept the house. Nothing. But then we got to the garage. Craig's flashlight hit a smudge on the wall near the breaker box, barely visible, but enough to make him frown. It looked like a fingerprint. Greasy. Human. Too high to be mine. The kind of thing someone would leave if they were reaching for the attic hatch above it. You go up there much? He asked. Not since last Christmas. Tree decorations are still up there. We popped the hatch. Craig climbed up while I held the ladder. 2 minutes passed. Then, dude, what the hell is this? My stomach dropped. What? He came back down holding a jacket, a faded windbreaker I'd never seen before. Women's cut. Gray with blue stripes. Inside the pocket was a receipt. I took it from him, hands shaking. Target. Local store. Dated 2 weeks ago. One item. Pack of 10 pink hair ties. I sat on the floor, jacket in my lap, brain racing. Someone had been in our attic. Recently. Someone with access. Someone who left behind a receipt like a calling card. Craig didn't ask too many questions, but he looked concerned. Man, I know this sounds nuts, but do you think someone's trying to frame you? I laughed, but it came out wrong. I hope so. Because the alternative is that I'm going insane and planting evidence against myself in my sleep. He didn't laugh back. We set up a motion-triggered camera in the attic, one of those discreet wildlife cams he uses for camping. He positioned it with surgical precision, facing the hatch. Then he told me to keep an eye on the garage door and to check it twice every night. He left me with a parting line I'll never forget. If you find more hair ties, don't touch them. Document everything. That night, my wife and I barely spoke. She was in bed early again, scrolling her phone with her back to me. I wanted to climb in beside her and pour everything out, show her the jacket, the receipt, the video still of the porch, the unplugged camera. But I still couldn't do it, because I realized something terrifying. There's only one person, who has access to our attic besides me. Her sister, Jess. Jess is unpredictable. The kind of person who smiles with her mouth but not her eyes. She'd crashed at our place a few times over the past year during her transitions code for breakups, job losses, or fights with their mom. Each time, she was just a little too curious, asking where we kept our spare keys, poking around the garage looking for a wrench, borrowing clothes from my wife without asking. The last time she stayed over was about a month ago for one night, but something had felt off. She said she left early the next morning for a rideshare shift, and I was half asleep when she left. My wife was still out of town. Could she have stayed? Hidden in the attic? Left the hair ties? It was unthinkable, but now I was thinking it. I asked my wife casually the next morning if she'd heard from Jess lately. She said no, just the usual memes and TikToks. Why? No reason, I lied. I checked the attic cam that afternoon. Nothing yet. That evening, we got into another fight. I don't even remember how it started, something about my phone being on silent when she called. She said I was being distant, secretive, that she'd never seen me like this, and if I had something to say, I should just say it. So I did. I told her about the extra hair ties, the 2 I found behind the dryer, the porch video, the unplugged camera, the jacket in the attic. I expected her to scream. She went quiet instead. Scary quiet. Then, barely above a whisper, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want to scare you." She stared at me like she didn't know who she was looking at. "You really think Jess is messing with us?" I hesitated. Then, I don't know what to think. She got up, left the room. I heard the front door open and close. She was gone. 10 minutes later, I got a text from an unknown number. It said, "Don't look in the attic tonight." That text stopped me cold. I read it 3 times. Same message. "Don't look in the attic tonight." No name. No emojis. Just those 7 words. I stared at the screen like it would explain itself. I felt my pulse behind my eyes. Then I screen capped it and called my wife. Straight to voicemail. I texted, "Where are you? Did you send this?" No reply. Then I did what any completely rational, terrified husband would do. I went to the garage and got a crowbar. It's amazing how quiet a house feels when you're expecting noise. Every creak becomes a scream. Every shadowy a movement. I didn't wait. I climbed the attic ladder with the crowbar in one hand and my phone flashlight in the other, heart pounding loud enough to drown out the hinges. The moment my head cleared the attic floor, I aimed the light straight at the wildlife cam Craig installed. Still intact. No sign of tampering. I panned the light around slowly. Cobwebs. Fiberglass insulation. Boxes of Christmas junk and forgotten memories. Nothing. Until I reached the far corner. Something new. A rolled-up sleeping bag. A takeout container. Empty Red Bull can. And the unmistakable gleam of something pink nestled between the folds. A hair tie. This time, wrapped around a lock of blonde hair. I nearly dropped the crowbar. I didn't touch anything. I snapped photos. Backed out. Called Craig again. He answered on the second ring. "Dude, there's more." I filled him in. The text. The attic. The hair. He paused. then said, "You need to get your wife out of the house. Tonight. She's already gone." Another pause. "I'll be there in 20. Don't go back up there." I waited by the front window. Every passing car made me flinch. Then I noticed something movement in the backyard. Faint. Subtle. Like someone ducking behind our fence. I grabbed the crowbar again. Walked out the back door and slowly approached the fence. Heartbeat in my throat. But when I turned the corner, there was nothing. No one. Just the faint sound of a dog barking in the distance and the lingering feeling that I was being watched. Craig pulled up with a laptop and a duffel bag full of gear. He didn't even say hi, just sat up at the dining table and yanked the SD card from the attic cam. We sat in silence as he loaded the footage. There wasn't much. Until last night. Timestamp. 2:14 a.m. Movement. The attic hatch creaked open from the inside. A foot dangled out. Then another. A figure climbed down, slowly, cautiously. Not Jess. Not anyone I recognized. A woman, maybe mid-30s, wearing the same gray windbreaker. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, blonde, light, the same shade as the strand in the attic. She carried a small duffel bag and something else tucked under her arm. A phone. She walked to the garage fridge. Opened it. Took out a bottled water. Drank half of it. Then glanced straight at the attic cam, dead center. She stared, tilted her head, then smiled. It was the most chilling thing I've ever seen. Then she disappeared off frame. "Who the hell is that?" I whispered. Craig just shook his head. "You said your wife's sister is blonde, right?" "Yeah, but that's not Jess. I'd swear on my life." "Then we have a serious problem." He scrolled through more footage. Nothing from earlier days. But the camera had only been up for 48 hours. Where did she come from? I asked. "Where is she now?" He looked at me. "I think she never left." We went back up to the attic, slower this time, armed with lights and, God help us, baseball bats. The sleeping bag and trash were still there, but now, there was something else. A stack of photographs. Of me. Sleeping. Watching TV. Cooking. Every one of them was taken from inside the house. Some from the hallway. One from the living room vent. One that looked like it was snapped from under the bed. Craig flipped them over. Each had a handwritten caption on the back. "He doesn't lock the garage. He sleeps like a baby. She doesn't deserve him. Soon." That was the last one. Just soon. We both backed out and shut the hatch like we were sealing a crypt. Craig looked pale. "You need to call the cops." I nodded, still processing. But deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be simple. Whoever she was, she had been inside our house, living here. She'd left hair ties as breadcrumbs. Left just enough to make me look guilty. She wanted to drive a wedge between us. And it was working. That's when I heard the front door unlock. My wife was home. She walked in slowly, eyes tired, makeup smudged like she'd been crying in the car. She froze when she saw me and Craig in the dining room. Then she said, "I need to tell you something. About Jess." Craig and I exchanged a glance. "Go ahead," I said. She swallowed hard. "She's missing. Has been for 2 weeks. No one told me because they thought she was off on another one of her disappearances. But her roommate just filed a report. And..." She hesitated. "She's not blonde anymore. She dyed it. To match me." The room went still, like all the air had been vacuumed out of it. My wife stood in the doorway, hands shaking, voice brittle. She dyed it to match me. Said she was tired of being the weird one, always overlooked. But it was more than that. Her roommate said she'd been fixated. On us. On you. I sat down hard, the floor suddenly unstable. Craig looked like he was piecing together a puzzle with no edge pieces. "You think she's the one in the attic?" I asked. My wife nodded. Slowly. "It has to be." Craig stood up. "We're not waiting. I'm calling the cops." The officers came fast. We showed them the footage, the photos, the hair tie with the blonde strand, the stack of sick little messages. They asked 100 questions I didn't have answers for. How long had she been up there? Did we ever hear strange noises? Had anything gone missing? Why didn't we report it sooner? That last one stung. Because I didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to believe that someone related to my wife had done this to us. Had manipulated us, stalked us, lived above our heads like a ghost scratching at our sanity. They called for backup and did a full sweep of the attic, then the crawl spaces, the garage, even the storm drain in our backyard. She was gone, but not far. They found her 2 hours later, barefoot and filthy, hiding behind a dumpster 3 blocks away. She still had the gray windbreaker. Inside the pockets, 3 more pink hair ties. One had a folded note wrapped around it like a ring. The note said, "You should have picked me." That night, I sat in the living room with my wife. No lights, just the TV screen humming white noise. We didn't talk for a long time. Finally, she whispered, "Did you ever get a weird feeling about her?" Before all this, I thought about it. About all the red flags I had ignored. Just staring too long. Accidentally brushing my hand when passing by. Asking questions like, "Do you think soulmates can already be in your life, but you don't know it yet?" All that stuff I laughed off as Jess being Jess. How do you answer a question like that? I just said, "Yeah," but I never thought she'd do this. She nodded slowly, and we sat there, exhausted and broken in the quiet that followed. In the days that followed, everything came out. Jess had been spiraling for months. She'd lost her job, gotten into fights with friends, and become obsessed with our relationship. Her journal, confiscated by police, was filled with page after page of my name, sketches of our house, and the words "make her leave" written over and over. She'd apparently stolen a spare key from under the flower pot last time she stayed over. Memorized our routines. Slipped in while we were gone. Lived in the attic when my wife went out of town and watched me for hours, days, maybe. The hair ties weren't random. They were placed. On purpose. Breadcrumbs to make my wife doubt me. To split us apart. And the scariest part? It almost worked. We changed the locks. Got a full security system. Motion sensors. Alarms. Cameras in places I never thought I'd need them. But some things take longer to fix. The trust. The cracks. My wife still wakes up at 3 a.m. sometimes and checks the attic hatch. I still flinch when I see a flash of pink in the corner of my cat toy, napkin. Doesn't matter. I freeze every time. We're rebuilding. We're stronger now in some ways. In other ways, we're still haunted. Not by Jess, but by how close she came to turning love into suspicion, trust into rot. The last thing I'll say is this. If your gut says something's wrong, even when your brain is telling you you're being paranoid, listen to it. I brushed off so many tiny moments. Because I couldn't believe someone close to us could be capable of something so unhinged. But monsters don't always live under your bed. Sometimes, they live above it. And they wear your wife's smile. And they leave hair ties behind like traps. And they whisper, "Soon." But this time, she's gone. And I'm still here. And I've got my wife's hand in mine again. That's enough.